All right. Hello, everyone. I hope you have your drinks and snacks ready. We are about to begin. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's workshop. I'm your host, Russo, and today we prepared a special workshop for you entitled Healthier Customer Data with Less Effort. Uh, so, before we get started, allow me to just go through some of the evergreen basics. You're all on mute due to the size of this workshop. So if you have any technical issues, please use the chat option that you can see in Zoom and address your questions to panelists who will gladly help you. And if you have any questions in regard with the content of this workshop, please use the Q&A and we will get back to you at the end of this workshop. As you can see, this is the first in our line of such workshops, which is a series. At least 2 more are coming. We will send you all the emails with updates to everybody who joined us today. So stay put and you can join us again in, let's say, another workshop. Now, I just have 2 more things to add in terms of the basics. I think you should all be getting a link from my colleague right now, which is a link to the Dropbox, where there is a step-by-step guide that will help you go through the workshop today. So this is for the part when our guest starts with the workshop. Please download it and have it ready. And now let me just go to the agenda. So let's see what we have in store for you. We have 2 guests today. The first one you might have come across in the past. It is our very own CSO and co-founder of the company, Slavko Kastilic, who will begin with a short introduction. And we are very pleased to welcome our guest speaker for today, which is Rune Lindvig from Talent, who will tell you briefly about Talent products and Talent Cloud. And then last but not least, he will lead the workshop, which is the reason why we all gathered here today. Before I give my word to Slavko, I would just like to ask Tinkara to share a small poll with you guys. We would like to see who joined us today. So you should probably have it now. It says, what is your role in the company? Please just click what you think defines you most, because this is going to help us see what kind of profiles are with us today. All right, so without further ado, I would like to invite Slavko to the Zoom stage. And Slavko, the word is yours.
Hello, everybody. I'm Slavko Kastilic. So, as also said, I'm running here sales and marketing, and I will just walk you through this first most important questions: why we are here and what we will do, the company is doing. So I will just take a few minutes from our guest right later on, from Rune, from his time. So let me just go through to the next slide. So CRMT is the company which started in 2005. We have plenty of consultants, customers, and projects. We are working mainly on 4 different areas: data management, regulatory reporting, corporate performance management, and RPA, robotic process and automation. We had projects in several different countries. And we will today focus on data management solution. One of those, which is a part of the data management solution, is data integration, data migration, and data quality. Here are some of our important references. There are more, but they are not listed here. So mainly from banks, insurance companies, and retail and telco industry, where a lot of data resides. So we are working with such, let's say, larger companies in the region, and we are working with some technologies. We are actually independent of technology, but we are representing some of the best of breed solutions here in the region, like Talent, as we will see later on. Other things are XSO, let's say, then HPA, like Esmeralda, so MicroStrategy, robotics, Wolters Kluwer's. So let's start with the data and the quality of the data. We are dealing with this quality of the data since, I don't know, ancient times. So even 40 years ago, without computers, a lot of companies had problems with the data, registers and everything else. And each new technology just pushed this data quality further. So new technologies, new data sources, requires new approaches, new tools to handle the data. Nowadays, a lot of companies has different systems that produce the data. So from ERP systems to CRM systems to web shops to external applications to cloud solutions and something like that. And everything from these systems should be put somewhere. Should be integrated, should be consolidated, and so on. And usually companies are a little bit behind with these processes. So a lot of companies has a lot of have still some manual processes. A lot of people are involved in these processes. So basically, from business analysts to data stewards to now data protection officers to chief data officers to data integration specialists and so on. So they need to collaborate, and this collaboration is not as easy as it should be. There's a lot of plenty of manual work, paperwork, emails, and so on. And as consequences, you have basically can result in bad data and slower processes, then loss of opportunities, and also excessive workload. So basically, people need to do more than they should be. And there's some analysts from analyzes, so basically like from Gartner or Forrester, that bigger companies has problems, and they lost roughly 12 million, 13 million, 10 million, something like that, in that range of money each year because of bad data. And if you are comparing this with, let's say, some kind of solution that can help you, it's practically a fraction of this amount. And now we need to know how, or we should know how to deal with these challenges. So basically, how to improve the systems. Gartner also predicts that a lot of organizations, especially last 2 years after this COVID, when companies found out that the data are not good enough to do some kind of good decisions or to do processes and so on, and they will invest a lot of effort and also resources to improve the data. How to do that? What we found out, let's say, last few years, that there's a special organization which is independent and a non-profit called Data Management Association. Here is on the right side you have a link to that organization that created let's say some kind of best practices in data management, and also create some book which has these best practices included and called the Data Management DM body of knowledge. So it covers 11 different areas of data management. We will today deal with some kind of data quality, then data integration also, and some deal of some kind of reference master data today. So talent itself covers quite plenty of those areas. So like different products covers different areas, but we will deal today with data quality, metadata as well, reference master data, data integration and interoperability. And this is just a short, brief picture. You can find this book online, which is also some kind of my opinion and suggestion that you will do that in the future. So let me just put 2 slides. How many people are involved, let's say, in the processes of gathering, ingestion, processing, and then using the data. Today we will focus on these data stewards and not analysts, but business analysts. So basically, who are very knowledgeable about data, and then integration specialists, and this these groups of people can use different kind of tools or modules inside the talent, which are practically, we will see practically these 4 today, from the complete list of modules and products in the talent. Talent as a platform is really flexible, unified, which is really important. We will see later on why, because it really allows you that all those teams that are working with the data and use the data are having strong collaboration. Then from that on, also they can develop and change the let's say specification faster. Then also that produce less errors like today. And at the end of the day, you will have more trust in your data, especially users of the systems. And on the bottom line, also better financial result as well. So with that, I will slowly conclude that. So basically, this use case today will be focused on customer data, but you can use it also on other areas in the company, like product, services, organization, and so on. So don't stay just with the customers, but try to extend it also anywhere else. Here today is the mixed group of people. Some are already customers, some are still not. So that companies that are already customers should extend and should see how can better use and utilize talent, but others you will see. So basically, what can we do with some kind of product as a talent? And with that, I will wish you successful work, many new ideas also for the companies, also fun, and then try to complete the exercises. If not, I think that we will have open this environments for you until April 4th or something like that. Rune will then correct me if I'm wrong. So you can do that later on. So Rune, as we said, wake up please, and take your stage.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I will then, so let me just present it. See here, oops, and let's just do the desktop. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can confirm it.
Okay, that's great. So yeah, so thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Rune Lindvik. I work from Copenhagen, Denmark, and I am a solutions architect for talent. So today we are going to go through a small workshop for you and about how to use the different tools and applications we've got in the talent data fabric. Now, let's start first of all with the data fabric, and this is what's the English word for that? This is a report from Forrester Group, where we are positioned at the top right little corner for our data fabric wave product, and you can read what a data fabric is here on the right side. But in essence, it is a unified platform with various applications that are all linked together on the journey to work on data as a team. So we're involving many different people and roles in the organization. Now, it's not just Forrester who's talking about data fabric. It's something that Gartner is also talking about, and using a data fabric architecture is key in order to modernize your data architecture. And you can also see it's part of the top trends that Gartner is positioning for 2022. So, but in essence, when you look at the Talent Data Fabric, it is a tool that can be used for more or less any kind of projects you have, because in essence, all projects require you to manage your data. And Talent is a data management tool. So if you're thinking about doing a modernization of your data architecture, or migrating from on-premise to cloud, or doing real-time streaming projects, IoT projects, and so forth, or 360 projects, Talent can help you in all of these projects. And we have on our website a whole bunch of different use cases or customer stories, which tells stories about how Talent has helped them achieve their business goals. So I'm not going to dive into that as in detail, because you can read all of these off our website. Now, as already presented, these are the various tools that are, or applications that are in our data fabric. They're all targeted towards different user personas or different roles, depending on what kind of task you have, but they're also targeted so they're easy to understand and use by the intended end user. So on the left side here, we have our integration tools, and those integration tools are primarily used for ingestion of data into a data lake. So this is a more in the departmental area, where you can ingest data fast into a data lake from various cloud systems or even on-premise systems. So it's just a three-step process, but it only replicates the data to the endpoint. It doesn't transform or govern or do data quality or anything like that. Now, for more complex integrations, we have our Studio, which is meant for data engineers in general and integration experts. Now, that is a very more complex tool, and it's our most complex tool. But we've extended it with Pipeline Designer, which we're going to look at today, and which is more like a tool for a data analyst who wants to create their own pipelines without having to go and bother IT by creating small pipelines and putting those into operations. Now, data quality is set here as a separate product. It's not really a separate product. It is in all our toolings. Data quality is an aspect in everything we do and in all of our applications. So, so every time you have a touch point through one of our applications, you will be presented with data quality on the data and the things you're doing. Now, data inventory, we're going to look at that today as well. And this is the place where we capture or show the data from various data sources. In the same process, we will profile the data. We will assign it a trust score. So we will look at the data and see how trustworthy the data is. And we will dive into that a lot more about how you can use that in your organization to both view data, see a data quality profile, share the data, rate the data, and so forth. If we jump over here to our data preparation, which is also a tool we're going to look at today. So this is an end user tool where you can take a data set and start preparing or parsing and standardize the data, clean the data, enrich the data, which you already have, and then increase the quality of that data. So it's easy to use in more like an Excel style view of the data, and you can work directly off of that. And then again, these preparations that are made can be used by the integration developers over here, or it can be used as part of a repeatable process. Now, what we often see is that when you have data, you can use all the quality functions you have in Talent to standardize your data, to check it by different rules you set up. You can match your data for duplicate identification. You can consolidate the data into a golden record. You can mask data and so forth. There's a lot of data quality functions inside our toolings. But what happens is you can never create a 100% data quality. So you cannot create a rule for everything. So there will always be some data where you want the data to be manually corrected or manually approved. And that is what we do in our data stewardship. So this is what I like to call the human part of our data quality solution. In here, you will get exposed to the bad records or duplicates, and you will be assigned a task where you will go in and correct the data. Now, once the data is corrected, you want to expose that data. Now, we can share the data sets where we have corrected the data again in the data inventory. We can use the integration over here to transfer it to another system, or we can use our API design tool over here, where we can generate a API, which can then be consumed by other systems as an REST API. And we can actually also expose the data directly here in the data inventory as an API, which we're going to look at today as well. Now, from a quality perspective, we have our data catalog here in the middle. This is an enterprise data catalog where you will be able to harvest metadata from your source systems, your databases, your integration tool, not just Talent. It can also be Microsoft SSIS and so forth. Your target databases, your BI tools. So it will harvest the metadata from in your entire data landscape, put it all together or stitch it all together in a enterprise data catalog. And then you will be able to see how data moves through your organization. You will get a quality assessment of the tool. It's accompanied with a business glossary. And again, it is a way to document how data moves across your landscape. And if you're looking for compliance, you can also see where you have sensitive data stored in your, for instance, your source system, and you can see then how that sensitive data passes through your organization all the way to your data or the business intelligence report. So it's a way of identifying how sensitive data is spread across your organization. This is all done in this unified, trustworthy, and flexible platform. As you know, Talent has an open source foundation, and thus it is, of course, easily extendable and customizable as well. So this is the overall presentation of the different applications we have. And today we're going to look at the data inventory, data preparation, data stewardship, and the short view of the API as well. And of course, data quality as part of that as well. Now, if you have any questions, please just put them into the Q&A. And I have there's a lot of people in the panelists who will help answering those questions during the call. Oops. Oh, what did I do? Okay, here. So this is a short architecture of our Talent cloud. And what you see here is that we have an on-premise edition of our platform, and we have a cloud edition of the platform. Now, we can also deploy this as a hybrid edition. So what we do is that we host all our applications in the cloud, but the actual data processing of the data will happen at what we call the remote engines. So you decide where you want to install these remote engines. And then that means that you have, for instance, your studio or one of our different cloud applications where you define how data should be read, transformed, and loaded. and that definition will then pass on to the engine, and the engine will then process that data. Now that means that this engine can read data from an on-premise system, transform it, and write it back to an on-premise system. Thus, no data ever leaves your firewall, which is marked up here. So the only communication that actually goes is that you have your tooling, which in this case, if it's the Talent Studio, you will design your job. That job code will be deployed in the cloud, and when the execution happens, that code will be run at the engine, and then it will then process the code locally. So and you can also spin up an engine on through the Amazon or Azure Marketplace, and then spin up an engine there if you want to run the engine in your virtual private cloud. Now, as a third option, you can also ask Talent to spin up an engine. Then it's running in the Talent cloud, and then of course it's supported and managed by Talent. Or you can run your jobs in a combination of all of these three. So as you can see on the arrows here, the studio will only export the code that is to be run. Now the engine also only makes an outbound call to the cloud, and if it gets a yes, I have something I need you to run, it will get the code back and then process the code. So there is no inbound connections to these remote engines, which makes it very secure. So the only thing that actually transfers back is status information about did the job succeed or not, and log information about the job that runs. Now, if you don't want the log information to go back to the cloud either, you can redirect that log here, so it actually is stored in your virtual private cloud or on-premise as well. So then the only information that actually goes back to the cloud is did the job succeed? Yes, no. And we need that information in order to start the next job upon success, or start another job on failure. So this is a very short overview of the architecture. Now we have a academy, which is online training, and here our partners and customers can get access and do training on all of our applications, and you can take your enablement by role. So you type in your role, and you will get a suggested track or tube map where you where we suggest the path you take in order to become professional, and you can get your certification. Now, this also includes best practice frameworks, solution templates, and best practice series videos. So there is a lot of information in here as well. If you just want to take a quick peek of how our application and platform works, you can also log into the Talent Academy, and there is a free edition where you can log into it, and there is that is then primarily a whole bunch of different videos explaining how the different the Talent platform and applications work. But again, that is free to use. So today's workshop is about achieving data health with Talent, and involving different personas. If you've seen the video which was sent out, you have the story where you have an analyst and a data engineer and a data steward and so forth, where you have different roles in the organization, each taking their part in the creation and maintaining of good data health to the data in your organization. So first, we will look at discovery and standardization of the data. So we will look at the data, we'll do some discovery on that data, and you will see a tool, which is our data preparation tool, where you can go in and standardize and prepare the data. Now, then we can go into operationalization of that profile, data preparation. So you can process that as part of your regular flow, or you can put that into operations. And we are also doing some matching to identify duplicates. And then we will take the unique records and put that into a table. And the duplicates, we will forward that on to our data stewardship, which then needs to approve that these are actual duplicates. And from there on, once they're approved, in normal standard setup, it will go to a person who then approves the corrections and signs off. And from there on, we can extract the data out of the data stewardship tool and again forward that on to the master data. And then at the end, we have the sharing of the newly created master data. So this is the flow for today. So first off, so you should all have gotten a login to the Talent Cloud. I sent out an invitation earlier. Now, once you click that link, you'll be forwarded on to a page somewhat like this, and you'll be asked to change your password or create a password, and then you'll be able to log in. So are there any questions so far in the Q&A? No. Okay. So then let's proceed with the demonstration. Okay. I of course, so 1 second. I forgot what the link was.
So Rune here is just showing you one type of issues that can occur, right?
Yeah. But, okay, so
we're back.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it has this eval or something ish code, and I can't really remember it. So let's see here. So here we are. Now, normally when you log in, you will get a different kind of page where you just need to start and say you want to start building, and then you will get into this page here. Now, what you do, depending on the role that you have been assigned, you will have access to various applications over here. Now, the first part where I will start this exercise is to start at the data inventory. Now, what is the data inventory? Now, data inventory is you can define a connection to a system, database, or a data lake, or yeah, all kinds of systems actually. So if you go in and you add a connection, you can then, let's just pick an engine, and you can see you have access to a whole bunch of different systems down here. Then you type in your credentials. Once you have your credentials, then you can add a data set. Or there's also actually different options, and that is the way you can do it. You can just go up here and drop a file onto the screen, and it will upload that data set, but then that data set will be stored in the cloud. Of course, your cloud, but it will be stored here. But yeah, you can click browse as well. Now, what you can do is once you've set up a connection, you can then point to a system or a database, and then you can choose that I want to take all these 4 schemas, or these 5 or 15 or whatever tables, and then it will import a sample of this data into the data inventory, and it will create a profile on the data and assign the data set a trust score. So you get an idea about how the data quality is. Now, first of all, I have a whole bunch of different applications here. Some of these are automatically coming in when you log on. The system will ask if you want to import a demonstration, and these are the demo databases that are here, and also these here as well. These are also demo data assets. So if I want to filter it, so I can then go and I could go and say custom attribute. I want to search by the custom attribute program, and I would want to use the 360. Then I only see the data sets that are relevant for this workshop here. Now, so first I will start with this data set here. Now, this data set I have shared. So it's shared with all of you. So you should be able to see this data set here. Now, once I click on the data set, I will be presented with an overview of this data set. Now, over here, we will have the talent trust score. And the talent trust score is done or is made up from in this spider web from these different metrics over here. So for instance, the validity. So this one looks at the of the data quality of the data set. So it looks here looking for invalid values or empty cells and distinct records and so forth. So it evaluates the quality of the data set there, and then it will assign a scoring to that. Now the popularity instead is based on user feedback. So that means that if you go in and look at, when you look here, you can look at the sample of the data. And if you find that the data is great and perfect, then you would sign it over here, give it a rating. And right now, I'm not so happy about this data set, so I gave it a bad rating. And then you can see the spider web over here increases or decreases. So depending on the more users that go in and make the rating, then the quality or popularity score here over here will change. So again, this is an information to other users whether or not this is a good data set or not. But what is this data set all about? Now, it's created on and by and modified, so forth. These are the physical details, but you can also apply a description to the data set, and that will help the discoverability matrix. So if I don't put any description in, then it's very hard to find this Salesforce.com customer report or extract or whatever it is. And then, of course, the discoverability will decrease. Now you can go in and you can define your own custom attributes. So these are down here. And I've created one called program. And when I click it, this is an option one. So I can choose between these two. Or I can also add tags to the data set. So it's tagged in some way. So you can use the tags to search for data sets as well. So all of this information, data quality, and rounds up, and then you get an overall trust score of the data, explaining how good the data is. Now you can also go to this section here. And you should be able to see the data set or a sample of the data set, and you can see the different values. And you can see from up here that this top line here is the physical name in the data set. Now, what you also have is the top line is the physical name from the data set, but underneath here there is a what we call semantic type. So the data has been profiled, and we have found out by looking at the content of this data that this actually matches first names, and this matches our definition of last names, and this actually looks like phone numbers, and this looks like country ISO2 codes, this looks like US postal codes, and so forth. And this looks like a date, and this looks like household composition. So again, these semantic types, you can define them yourselves. So you can define them in our section where there is semantic data types. You can define your own loyalty branding or grouping, or you can define your own groups. And these are normally done by creating regular expressions or value lists, or what we call compounds, which is a combination of more of these semantic data types. And then every time you scan it or import a data set, they will be scanned according to these semantic data types, and they will be assigned to the data set. And I can see I actually imported a wrong data set here because I didn't get all the defects into the country. So I might have to just update this later. So what happens here is that if you do not like how this data set looks, then you can go down here and then you can create your own data preparation of this data set. So what happens here is that you can see there's already created 2 preparations on this data set, and they are created by me. But let's just add another preparation to this data set so we can customize the data. So this one here will actually open up the data preparation tool. And again, it will make a profile of that data. So you can see a frequency analysis over here. You can look at the value information about distinct count and duplicates and other information about this column here also that I've highlighted over here. You can look at patterns in the data. So this is just one word, so not much of a pattern here. But so this is just a short overview of the data set. Now, if you click on one of these, it will apply a filter to the data set, and then you will see a subset of the data, just like you could apply the filter up here. So once you go and you want to cleanse the data set, you will then click on a column, and you will be presented over here with various options to manipulate the data set or the column. So I could, for instance, type simplify, and then then you will get here, and then you can then simplify the text by removing case, accent, etc. And you can create that in a new column, or you can just apply this rule to the column called last name. Now, before I press commit, you can actually see it turn green on the left side. So you can see this will be the output if I click submit. But let's do that. And you see here, what you get over here on the left side here is now the start of a recipe. So the recipe will will list up here, and it will process this data source step by step according to the recipe order. So right now we are not changing the data, we are just reading the source data and applying the set of functions one by one to this section over here. So I could continue to this, and then I could just say upper, and then change to uppercase. And again, I can hold the button and I can see how it changes. And then you get an uppercase on this one. Now, normally, I'm sorry, I messed up the data set, but I will upload a new one just after this demonstration. But what you usually do here is that you will look at this one here, and then you will see again a distribution of the countries. This on a map, but you could also just have done it like this, and you'll see the various values and their frequency. But what you can do is I can just say country. So please imagine that there was mentioned France here, or Great Britain, or United States, or USA, or something like here. So you can then go in and then you can choose convert country names and codes. And now I want to convert it from a country name but to the country ISO 2 code. And I don't want to create a new column. I just want to apply that to that existing one here. So now we have a country code. Then we can start to look at some of the columns we have, which actually are country specific, which could be, for instance, the phone number. Now, the phone number you can just type phone, and then you can do, for instance, format the phone number. So we have suggestions, and there's also a section actually called phone. So you can then format the phone number by choosing another column, which is the country. So now it will look at this phone number according to the country and make sure that the standardization or the format of the phone number is according to the country code. And the output, I want to format that in an international, or I can choose other variants here. So again, submit. And what you usually want to do here is, then if you have over here, you could say that you would have maybe done a zip code by country as well, and then make sure that the format of the zip code is correct. I haven't set this up, but that's again doable as well. Now, what you usually want to do here is, if there are invalid records, you can see here from the quality bar that there are a lot of blanks and there are a lot of valid values. Now, if you want to remove, for instance, the invalid records over here, you could then clear the cells with invalid values. And then all the ones that are marked with red will then be removed. So you don't have any invalid data in your data set. Now, over here, you can also see dates. So you can see it varies in the format and it's not consistently formatted. So again, you can go and then you can just type date up here and it will list all the different date functions we have, or you can also browse through the different things we have over here. We can do conversions by distance, temperature, data cleansing. We can do, let's see here, fill cells, data masking, so we can mask the data. They have a bunch of date options, deduplication, math operations, numbers, phones, split the cells into multiple pieces, string operations, advanced operations, and so forth. So I will then say date, and then I will then change the date format. And I don't want to spend time looking through the format, so it's going to look through the format and see how the date fits, and then standardize it into an ISO format. Now, if I know the format over here, I can then also just define my own format, and then that is it. Oh, sorry. Again, submit. So there are more advanced features over here. So if you look to this one here, this is a typical example of somebody has done some groupings, and the data, the text is not completely identical, or there's some variations in it. And then you can do what we call, not plus, but group. So find and group similar text. So what it will do, it will then scan through the data set, and then it will then find things that look somewhat the same. So single male and single female, though these are two distinct values, so I don't want to replace this to something else. So 2 adult, no kids, and 2 adult kids. No, this is also okay. Yeah, that's because I uploaded the wrong data set. So I already cleaned this one here, but this one you will then it will group the data and what looks similar, and then you can define that this value here and this value here is actually the same, and then define what the output should be, and then submit here as well. Now, if there is something that's very more or less like very challenging to pick out the pattern, we also have actually a thing called magic fill. Now, the magic fill is something where you can provide the input. So you type in what is the input, and then you type in how do you want the output to look like compared to the input, and then you give another example and another example and another example. You can give. I think in order to get a good result, you can see at least 2 examples, but I would of course recommend that you do 3 or maybe even 4. And then you submit it, and then it will look at the patterns, and it will automatically identify what you're trying to do on convert, and then it will convert that for you as well. So again, this is one of the many functions we have available out here in this section here. So that was the end of the data preparation. Oh, I just need to. So, 1 second. So once you've, am I not the owner of this one here? Oh, okay. So once you've created all your changes to the data, then you can. In order to get the data processed, you need to do an export of the data. Now, when you do the export, it will then export the data to a local file or to Amazon S3 or local Excel file or something like that. And you can then confirm it, and then it will process the data according to the recipe you have specified. Now, this is of course a bit annoying, because then after you processed it, you want to go in and then you want to upload the new data set to the data inventory again. So the next release we are presenting, you are able to take this recipe and just process it. So there's going to be a process button up here, and then the data will be automatically dropped directly into the data set section here. So, so no need to like export it and then import it again. So this here is an example. So now I did the export and import again. So this is now my cleaned standardized data set. And when I go into look into this, I will then have a better validity of the data than compared to previously. Now, if I then want to process the data and look for instance, in this example here, we have duplicates. So from that, can see I've already created a pipeline. And now the pipeline is an integration tool that can help you process the data. So let's open that one. Now I can open this directly from the data set and I can see that the pipeline is linked to the data set. Of course, I could also have just chosen Pipeline Designer from this menu up here. Now, the Pipeline Designer is a tool where you can take a data set, and when you and then you're presented with a blank canvas and with a source as a starting point. So you start by clicking in which data asset you want to look at. Once you put this data set in, you'll then be able to see the data set here at the bottom and how the data actually looks like. Now, this one is viewed as a grid, or you can also use to look at it as a hierarchy. So if it was a JSON document or a document with a hierarchy, you could see the hierarchy, or you can see it in a raw format as well. Now, what you then can do is you can add a processor or a component that processes the data. Okay, so what happens here is that you will then see the input into this component, and you'll be able to see the output of this component here. So I would like to see it in grid mode. So this is the input, and this is how it looks when it comes out of this component. Now this is an aggregation component, and you can see over here that I'm grouping by last name, first names, and then I'm doing various aggregation operations, like this is a list, so it lists all the values that are within the grouping and just make a list of it. You could have done sum or count or one of the other operations that are here as well. Now, what you then do is then you add the next processor. So what you click on plus, and then you can go in and you can choose from the various components in here which are available to do. And here you can type conversion, normalization, aggregation, field concatenation, data operations, splitting the data into multiple pipelines and so forth, or streams. But from this example here, we are going to put it into a Python component, and here you can type your own Python code, which then modifies the data if that's something you like. And then this one here is a filter, which then splits the data stream depending on the filter criteria. So if is duplicate is equal to false, then it goes into this unique record set. Now, if there are duplicates, we are then forwarding this to the data stewardship, where we need somebody to manually correct or approve the data. So once I've designed this flow here, I can then start by submitting it, and then it will then start processing on one of these engines that are located up here. Again, this is an engine that is hosted by Talent. It's called Cloud Engine for Design. But again, it could also have been a local engine which you have spun up on premise. No, then the data or the processing of the data happens locally. So once this runs, we will then get data into the unique section, and we will also get data into our data stewardship. Now this is running in Spark, so as it takes some time to spin up the job, and once it's running, and then it's processing the data, and we can process some of this data on a local engine, but it can also process on a cluster or big data cluster. So let's just see. I hope it finishes, which usually takes a little over a minute. So data processed, and it's now going through. And now it ended. Now add the filter here. You can then see there's two outputs, so you can choose which output you want to look at when you see the data. So now we've processed the data, and then we want to go to the data stewardship. Now this is to look at the duplicate information. So first of all, I will go to we processed the data into this customer deduplication campaign. Now, a campaign is where you work on the tasks that have been assigned to you. Now, so the campaign is like is built on a data model. So the data model states how the data should look like. So it looks like this. I think it's this one. I don't want it. So here you have the different attributes, and then you can go in and define whether or not the field is required, whether or not it has to conform to this semantic data type, or another data type. And you can also apply rules to it, so which is a combination of fields. So more or less that if let's see, if age, for instance, if your age is below 18, then the driver license field should not, there shouldn't be any value in the driver license. And things like that. You can also do the same thing. If the country code is this, then the phone number has to conform to the format for the given country. So those are what we usually call rules, because they are cross field. So you define the data model, and then you build a campaign on top of the data model, and the campaign can be for bad record resolution. So that's individual records you wanna correct. So it is the data is consistent with the data model you define. Now in this case, it's about duplicates. So it's a merge campaign that we are looking at. So, but let's look at this one up here, which is the customer deduplication. Now you can see over here, there is 1,770 unassigned tasks. Now, normally when you run the data in the pipeline designer, you will then run the data and assign the data to a specific person who needs to take care of the data, and then they will actually end up in my tasks. So then when I go in, I can see that, okay, I have 10 tasks which I need to resolve. In this case, I just pushed it all to nobody. So that means when I go in, I can see I don't have any tasks, which is correct. What I can do is I can go over here and then look at the unassigned tasks, and then they all pop up here. So for instance, here there is one task here which has 4 records, which is 3 of them are from the CRM system and 1 of them is from the support systems. I want to take this task, so I'm going to drop this to me. And I could also take this task here and that task, or I can mark them up and then just drag the task over here. Or I can also go over here and assign tasks, the selected ones, to me, submit. Or I can say all tasks and then assign them to me. But not right now, I've just assigned 1 task to me. So that means when I log into the system, normally I would see here I have 1 task that I need to resolve. Now, when I look at the data here, I can then see, okay, I can understand that this is identified as the same record because Demetrius Shields, yeah, looks like the same person. But this one is in the US and this one is in Great Britain. And we can then see also that these 2 phone numbers are different from here. So, and this one has not any kids identified. So what you usually would do is that I would then say, I don't think these are actually duplicates. So I will then pick this one and this one. So now I mark these 2 records and I will go over here and I will then split the task. So now I've split this into 2 separate master records. So this is one person and this is defined as another. So if I look to the first one here first, I can then see these are the different information and it has consolidated up into this information up here. So you can see, oh, I cannot approve this or send it off to approval because it's red. And that's because household composition is a required field. So if I look to it, I can then say, okay, so this is an adult, 2 adult, no kids. So I will then choose that one. Then now this one is green. And now I can lock it and send it off for a approver to approve the corrections I did. Now, inside the system here, you will also get a complete audit trail. So once you look at here, you can see that the household description was empty and it's now been set to 2 kids. So the person that approves the record can see what was changed from what to what and by who and so forth. And you can also see the task was split and so forth. So all the audit details are available here. So the record is now correct and I can approve it. Now you also have other things here, but I didn't set this up. But normally you can also say that depending on the system, if there was CRM or support, for instance, this one here, I could have set up that I trust the CRM system more than I trust the support system, which means that the information from the CRM system will be the one that primarily rolls up into the master record. So this is what we use as the, where is it there? The most trusted value. So that will then take the value from the system down here, which has the highest scoring. Now I could also have chosen the most recent value. So that means that if you have a date on the record, so it will then take the record, which is the most current updated one. not depending on the actual system it came from. Or I can take the most common value. So if there are 8 variations of the Demetrius, then it will take the one that has been spelled the same the most times for her. So, and then it will then, I click this, and then that will consolidate up into this golden record. So once I've finished with this in here, I can then lock it, and I can lock this one. And you can see now I have locked my 2 records, and I can then validate them, and then now they're sent off to approval. And then another person who has that assignment will log in and approve the corrections I made. And once those corrections are approved, we can then take the data out of the data stewardship and process that onto our master record or qualified data. So now that we have our data in the unique. Normally, I would create another job that takes data out of the data stewardship and adds that onto the customer's unique, so the unique customers. But I haven't done this for this use case here. So what we can do is that if the data source, normally in this example here, I process the data to a local data set called customers unique, so it's just a file. But if I've processed the data to a target, which was on a database, I could then look at this data here, and then I could actually choose this section down here, which is called API. And the API, I can then choose to I didn't do this, but you can just, it's just a one-click button, and then say I want to expose this data set or this table as an API. And then you can see it will be exposed as an API, and you can then query the API. And then you can also, when you go to the edit, you can set an API key so you need a specific API key in order to get the data, or you can add a user credentials like username and password. So once you have set this API up, then other people will then be able to query this data from their system. So this is our API test tool. And if I go to metadata, I can then just click send. It will then respond with 200. I can see these are the columns that are in the data set. So this one here gives me the definition of the table. Or I can then go and I can look at the number of records that are in the data set, and then it returns the number of data sets. Or I can go and get all the records back. That's going to be a huge recs file, so I'm not going to do that. Or I can do it by key, and then if I do that, then I get the record back here as an API. So that means you can expose this data set, and then you'll be able to consume that data from Salesforce or from Excel or what have you. So it's you can easily exposable and it's easily consumable. And it's exposed through OS. So as the standard. So here. So yeah, 18, you can see there was a change here to the amount of successful requests here. Now, if I want to do this even more complex, instead of exposing it like this, I can actually also create my own API through an API designer, where I can do a lot more complex API definitions, both in terms of hierarchy information, but also a lot more about validation of the data. Or I can do when I expose this data set, it's only for querying data. It's not for updating the data or inserting new records. If I want to do those kind of APIs, then I do it through the API designer, and then I define my API. Now that API definition I can import into my Talent Studio, and then I can create the API operations in there, and then expose that API as a REST API or SOAP API, whatever you want. So this is the overall introduction video. So do we have any Q&As? Nope.
No, this far I think we are clear on the questions, so we can go on.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know what I did to mess this one up, but I can upload this record set again, and then you should get a data set with some defects in it where you can apply the data preparations to it. So I will just update this in a few seconds. So this is the overall walkthrough of the demonstration, and how you can use Talent to read the data. You can see the trust score and the quality of the data. You can apply data preparations to standardize the data, and you can also put it into a pipeline and then process the data to other data stores, or you can expose it through an API. Now, I exposed this data through an API, but normally you can take these data sets here, and then you can click on the share. And here you have all the names of the users, and you can just choose which users you want to share the data with. So I shared it with everyone, but so now you can all see this data set here. So in general, when I import a data set, it's accessible for me, and then I choose whether or not to share this data set with other people. Now, yeah. There. So this one here is a bit just a quick. This is more or less like what we call like a fake matching, because I'm just, in order to identify a duplicate, I'm just grouping by last name, first name. Now, normally what you would do is you would put a soundex or something in front of this one, so you have a more another algorithm to identify if there's small slight misspellings on the names, or maybe you want to look at more things like social security numbers or something like that, in order to identify that this is actually a duplicate. But this is just to keep it all within the cloud products. What we usually do is we go to our studio, and in the studio we will design a job that is more or less like this. So the prepared data from the data prep, we will read the source data, we will apply the data preparation, then I will put this into a past records table. Then I will apply a matching component to it. Now, the matching component, where here you can do a lot of different more complex matching algorithms. Like there are things like 8 different matching algorithms, or you can create your own actually. That will look at different variations. So if the name is more like, let's say 90% the same with a phonetic algorithm put on top, then it's the same, or we assume it's the same. If the social security name or the social security number is the same, or if the phone number is the same. So you can do and or operations in order to identify duplicates in here. And then the output of this one here will then be, I didn't find any duplicates, so it will go into the uniques. So that will go to the unique records. Now, if I am confident that this is a match, that means that maybe the match score was about 98% to 100. Then it will go through what we call a survivorship component, and this will then consolidate the duplicates by a rule system and create the master record, and then at the end over here write that master record in as a unique. So more or less it ends up the same places here. Now, if the scoring is between 90 and 98%, then I'm uncertain that this actually is a match. So then I route it through here, and then I forward it on to the data stewardship application. So again, you have various tools depending on which role you have in your organization, but they are still all linked together through the functionality and components. So you can exchange data between the different applications. So this was the demonstration.
Right. So thank you so much, Slavko. Let me just, and Rune, of course, for your presentations. Allow me just to share my screen. All right, so we are now in this questions and answers section. So thank you again, Slavko, for the initial presentation, of course, and to Rune for the workshop. I think this was nice, and maybe even better than that, a great insight in how talent enables everybody in the company to contribute to the better and healthier customer data. So really, thank you so much again for the successful leading us through the workshop step by step. So to all of our participants, this workshop is recorded. If you want, we can send it to you when it's ready. Also, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to write them in the Q&A and we will answer them now live, or you can always write us an email and we can discuss specific topics one-on-one as well. If not, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope that you learned some useful tips and tricks on how to better the quality of your data. I invite you all to visit our new website with many similar events to this one, and follow us on LinkedIn and social media for all news CRMT. Now let me just check with my team if we have any questions or not so far. I don't see anything here. So, all right, if there is nothing else, then I would thank you for your time, and I'll see you guys next time.